Hi everyone, it's Ardith, and today I've got a card with a really neat fold technique that I'm calling a box fold. You may know that I'm a co-hostess of the weekly Featured Stamper Challenge on Split Coast Stampers, and this card was inspired by this week's featured stamper, Nikki. The inspiration card she made is on my blog, so check it out if you're interested. Nikki's card was a full A2 size, but I decided to try it with a 4 1/4 inch square card. I started with two 4 1/4 inch by 8 1/2 inch panels of 80-pound Neenah Solar White cardstock. I figured since the card would be doubled up and folding, a lighter cardstock might make it all a bit easier. I scored each panel at 2 1/8 inches away from the end, and then I used a bone folder to fold them along the score lines and make the creases really crisp. To put the card together, you lay the two panels perpendicular to each other, and then fold them in. I gave it a trial run here, and I found that I had a bit of trouble getting the one side closed, so I simply trimmed a very narrow slice of one side before attempting to close it up for the first time. I'm sure you've all done this fold with a cardboard box before. It works the same way. Put the panels down in order, working clockwise, and when you get to the final one, tuck one end in under the first panel. My two white panels were not attached to each other, and the folds were still pretty new, so my first time was a bit awkward. I gave some thought to things that I could do to make it easier. I started by marking the 4 panels that would show with a pencil. This helped me with placement later on. I also decided to round the corners so that they wouldn't get worn and bent with the action of folding. It took me a few minutes to find my old 1-inch corner rounder punch. I've linked to one below, but I'm pretty sure it's not the exact same as the one I've had forever. Rounding the corners definitely helped with the functionality, but it also gave me a bit of a design element that I incorporated into the card front, which you'll see in a minute. I used some pieces of strong adhesive tape to hold the two panels together. I didn't want anything moving to make the fold more complicated. The strength of the adhesive makes it critical that you get the panel placed correctly the first time. It's not particularly forgiving if you have to try and lift up something you've glued with it. Next, I stamped the sentiment on the inside of the card. Because the panels are 8 1/2 inches long, it fit perfectly into my original sized MISTI, with one flap hanging over the right edge. I used the sentiment from Altenew's Rennie Roses with jet black amalgam ink from Gina Designs. For my card front, I cut 4 squares to 1 3/4 inches, and I rounded 2 diagonal corners on each one to create a continuation of the design choice I'd made earlier. Each one will sit on an exposed panel of the finished card. I put them together and taped them with temporary tape so that I could stamp a continuous scene over the 4 squares. Once they were together, I put them in my mini MISTI and used a variety of the Rennie Roses flowers and leaves, along with a bit of masking to create an arrangement that was focused in the bottom left corner but continued into all 4 of the panels. I used the amalgam ink again because it's Copic friendly. I've loved Rennie Roses since I first went to Glasgow about 25 years ago, and I learned about Charles Rennie Mackintosh, who was a Scottish architect, designer, and artist in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. He was around about the same time as Frank Lloyd Wright, and there are some similarities in their styles. These roses seem to be popular right now, with a number of companies producing stamps and dies in this geometric yet classic style. I'll show you the coloring of just the first couple of roses and leaves, since I used the same colors over the whole panel. Before I moved on, I used a very pale yellow marker to add a bit of warmth to my roses. Once I had the coloring done, I used the coordinating dies to cut masks from masking paper so that I could blend ink over the background. Using dies is faster than hand-cutting masks and will give a little white halo around the edges of my floral arrangement, which will brighten the card front a bit. Once I had all the masks down, I flipped over the panel and pressed down with my fingers to make sure they were all really stuck. I didn't want them lifting during the ink blending that was coming next. I used Catherine Pooler ink and Aquatini, along with a life-changing blender brush to add some rich color to the background. I started in the corner with more ink and let it fade as it came toward the center to create a kind of glow. Then I rotated the panel and started with the next corner, and continued on until the whole panel was covered. Next came the magic removal of the masks. This never gets old for me. I used my craft pick to help pick up the edges of each mask until the whole scene was revealed. To add some shimmer, I got out my brand new Avery Elle Shimmer Mist and gave it a really good shake before testing it on my work surface to see how fine the mist would be, before I finally spritzed my floral panel. It has a very pretty sparkle, and it's an easy way to add something extra to a card. Once it was dry, I removed the tape holding the 4 pieces together, and I double-checked the sentiment in the card to be sure I put them on correctly. I tried a couple of ways of putting the 4 pieces on, but decided it was best to have the card closed up, so I could see exactly how much space each piece would have. And there it is. The rounded corners definitely made it easier to open and close this special card. You could use this as a gift card holder, or even as a combination of card and envelope if you decorated the inside of the card and addressed the outside. I think this fold is a really fun technique to have in your repertoire. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up below and subscribe to my channel for more inspiration. Product links are below in the description and also on my blog. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.